It's about 10:30 p.m. Sunday evening, September 7th. Um, that's a good question. Um, I wish I knew the answer to that. Um, I don't know, man. I do not know. Um, One of the hardest things for me over the last 8 months, my brother and I have been to a bunch of protests, and I don't know what they do, especially out here in the Bay Area, because it's not, we don't have much of an ICE presence out here. I haven't seen any, and I haven't. I mean, I know there's a couple of spots downtown in the financial district where there have been some protests, but those have been really small. And I mean, I've continued like donating to certain groups and things like that. One thing I wanted to mention, if you're looking for an organization to join or donate to, the American Civil Liberties Union is an excellent one. The ACLU. They've really been on the front lines of a lot of these immigration and detention cases, filing motions at midnight on a Friday to stop planes from leaving and stuff like that. And they've been really, really active in all 50 states fighting this stuff. And so I've been trying really hard to support organizations that are doing like legit boots on the ground kind of stuff. Because right now it's like the courts are the last thing. The courts are the last thing. I don't know. And I've been trying very, very hard to not just be doom and gloom all the time. It's very easy to slide into that, and and just throw my hands up kind of thing. And I don't like feeling like that. I don't like feeling like that. And just feeling like we're just waiting for the midterms. Those are 14 months away. The elections for the midterms, a new Congress wouldn't take place or wouldn't be seated until 10 weeks after that. And so it's like we're a year and a half away from having a new Congress. And when you look at all of the things that Trump and his administration have gotten done in 8 months, you know, I'm very much struggling with trying to find any kind of hope or optimism. And again, because it's like, when I think about the midterms, it's like, let's say the Democrats take the House and the Senate. We'll at least prevent Trump from appointing more judges, and we'll be able to shut down a legislative agenda. But he's only relied on one piece of legislation this year, the big beautiful bill. And that's done a tremendous amount of damage and is going to do even more damage after the midterms, because that's when they timed the Medicare cuts, or the Medicaid cuts and the SNAP benefit cuts to kick in after the midterms. So there won't be news stories about the consequences from that landing on people before the midterm elections. And they're going to try to monkey with the midterm elections as much as they can. They're doing their gerrymandering thing right now. And I fully expect at some point during the next year and a half, there's going to be voting legislation going through the House and the Senate to try to enact, Trump trying to make mail-in ballots illegal nationwide. I don't, you know, but elections are run at the state level per the Constitution. And the president has no ability to do anything to elections, and Congress only has a limited ability to pass legislation to affect elections at the state and county level. But, you know, the Constitution hasn't stopped him before, so we're going to have to keep a close eye on some of that stuff, because he's going to try to upend the midterm elections as much as he possibly can. Because, I mean, Donald Trump ran for president for two reasons. He doesn't give a shit about any of this stuff ideologically, you know, the Project 2025 stuff. He doesn't care about that. He ran for president to stay out of prison and make money. And just last week, they started a new crypto thing, and Trump and his family, you know, have an additional $5 billion on paper right now for their new crypto coin. And he got all of his criminal cases against him dismissed, even though he is still a convicted felon. But he's not ideological on this stuff. But he has put very smart, ideologically committed people in a lot of places of power, like Stephen Miller running the immigration stuff, and Russ Vought at Office of Management and Budget. And it's just like, it's disheartening and deflating to me to think that our first real opportunity to do anything about this is the midterm elections, because that's a year and a half, man. That's a year and a half. And I don't know what this country is going to look like a year from November. And plus, it's like, you know, when you think about the 2024 election, I think the number was around 90 million eligible voters didn't bother to vote. That's more than the votes. That's a bigger number than the number of votes that Trump got. It's a bigger number of votes than Kamala Harris got. More than a third of eligible voters just stayed home. And so there's an apathy in the American electorate that I think is going to be extremely challenging to overcome. And then when you consider that, you know, I mean, everything that's happened in Donald Trump's approval rating is still at 42%. It is still at 42%. 42% of Americans are like, no, I'm happy with everything that's happening right now. And, you know, many of those people, their brains have been so pickled by right-wing media for the last 25 years that they've just become so dumb and gullible that they actually think that Donald Trump is making America great again, you know, not caring that he's destroying our global relationships with allies. He's started a global trade war and instituted global tariffs that are destroying our economy. And tens of millions of people in the United States who vote can't see it because they're fucking stupid and gullible. And they're in a cult, and they're very easily manipulated. And so then it's like, what does stopping this even look like? If Trump for some reason was no longer in office tomorrow, would that stop everything? No. Because all of those voters who voted for him and all of those 42% of Americans who approve of him still are still here. You know, and I didn't feel good today, and I'm cranky, and I'm in a bad mood, and so it's just hard not to feel kind of depressed and defeated when I don't feel good. But the answer to your question is I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take. I have no idea. I really wish I did.